Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. And today I am really excited to introduce you to Jayem, John Marc Hammer, who is the incredible channel for Jeshua ben Joseph, also known as Jesus. Let's see what he has to say. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and I am dedicated to helping others love their life and live their passion by integrating spirit, mind, and body. It is what I do and who I am, and I love finding like minds who are out and about in the world doing that as well through so many different ways and avenues. And today, I'm excited to introduce Jayem, John Marc Hammer, the conduit for the profound teachings of the books of the Way of Mastery series that emerged from his incredible encounter with Jeshua ben Joseph in his living room. That encounter marks the beginning of a lifelong journey for Jayem. And we are the blessed recipients of that journey with the many, many books he has channeled. There's so much more than the Way of Mastery. There are the Jeshua letters, the Way of the Servant, the early years. He's speaking now about the Aramaic Jeshua. I can't wait for you to hear that. And the living practices, which are the practices that came out of the channelings and the later years. Welcome, John Marc Hammer. I was first introduced to Jayem because the book was recommended to me, The Way of Mastery, and I purchased the book, but I had a hard time reading early in the morning, the small little print. So I really enjoyed listening to the channelings in your voice early in the morning. I could just sit back and relax and listen to your voice, really speaking the words of Jesus.
It's interesting when you just mentioned hearing that voice, even though it's been so many years, decades now, it still is odd for me to say, listen to one of the original audios. And I can recognize that it's the voice associated with this body mind, yet I absolutely know it's somebody else using it. Jeshua would take me out of my body and I could see him sort of slide into it, and then he would teach. So when I hear the voice, it's like, I know that's my voice, but that is absolutely not my state of consciousness doing the communicating. The depth of wisdom, his mastery, and just his vibration is quite distinct. So it's always been just a little quirky, I guess, for me to recognize that.
So that's a beautiful beginning of your experience of channeling. Do you remember what you're saying? What is it, a trance channel, or what's happening for you when you're doing that?
It went through some phases over the years. After my initial being contacted by him, which I wrote the book, The Jeshua Letters, about the first year and a half with him. And there was a stage at which I was finally willing to surrender to him as my final teacher. And at that time, he said, very well, I will begin communicating with my friends, which is really everybody. And I somehow knew what he meant by that, but I had no idea how it would work. And he gave me a prayer to do, and I just gently would repeat the prayer. And I could feel myself dropping into kind of a deep meditative state as a result of the prayer. And then this peculiar vibration would start. I don't know how to describe it, like an energy quickening. And then I would literally feel myself being lifted out of the body. And I I could see when you're in an out of body state, you can see 360 degrees, which is kind of interesting. But I could see my body. I'm moving away from it. I could see Jeshua. I don't know how to describe it, as kind of a light body being with others next to him, and they were forming a circle around the group of whoever would be there. And I was just kind of drifting further and further up away from it all. I could watch Jeshua slide into the body. And as he did that, I lost all contact with this realm. And it felt like I was, I don't know, accelerating through a field of multicolored light. I don't know how else to describe it. And as I was doing that, I could see the planet. I could see then the physical universe as if I was being telescoped out.
Wow.
And then poof, I was somewhere that just felt like a field of light. And Joshua would be right in front of me, and he would be teaching me about my life and my journey. But I had no awareness whatsoever of what was going on in our world, our dimension. And then at some point, he would look at me and say, "We're complete for now, and you'll be returning." And it would feel like I was falling back and telescoping the other direction. And whoosh, I could see the physical universe, then planet Earth, then my house. And it felt like I would just like literally fall into the body and very gradually begin to be aware of being here again. I had no idea what was said. I had no idea what had transpired. And sometimes it would take 20, 30 minutes for me to move a finger or be able to utter a sound. It was like, I don't know, incarnating, I guess, all over again. And then after I came back, and people would make comments about the message or the evening that they had with him. And they would all go home, and my body would feel completely electrified. I don't know how to describe that either. It sounds like a little crude, but it was reminiscent of my younger days in the 60s and 70s after a little LSD. It's like, like whoosh. And I would go out and take a walk, and I would walk for hours, and everything was translucent. Buildings were shimmering. I could see through trees. It was just a whole different cosmos. And gradually that would begin to wear off, and I would come back to myself.
Mm.
And I don't know why those balloons do that. Isn't that weird? I can't figure. Occasionally it happens when
What in the world?
it seems to happen at certain little moments. It's only happened 3 or 4 times, and I cannot figure it out. Nobody can.
At first I thought we were live and I'm like,
That was pretty, I know, it's a mystery.
oh goodness. Well, I'm getting very emotional as you're telling this. I feel, I think that's why I love the recording so much, because I I feel myself transported, seeing the translucency of this world, this realm, as I'm walking in it, as I'm doing those tasks. So without the drugs, I didn't do those drugs, but I think it's just the meditation, and you mentioned willingness and
Yeah.
surrender. And I think that's one of the things as humans that we have is this is the world we think we know. So we
Yeah.
cling to it with all our might, which is the ego, that might, that ego thought that says, this is real, don't let go. And
Yeah.
yet we all have, I shouldn't say all, but most of us do recognize that little small still voice that's saying, let go. And you can
Yeah.
see what else is here. And
Yeah.
in your channelings, you remind us so much of that, and Jeshua reminds us of that.
Exactly what you're saying is so spot on. And I loved how you mentioned willingness. It's probably one of the most fundamental axioms of what he teaches. He mentions it in many, many places as the ground of all meaningful change. And if you really consider willingness, what is it? It's not a desperation. It's not even a hope because you don't know what will happen. But it is an expression of what he calls our infinitely sovereign free choice.
Mm.
And that everything we have ever experienced, even the perception that this world is all there is, and the way perhaps our fear makes us grab hold to it, because we've forgotten, we've lost touch with greater reality. He says that even this is the effect of what you've been willing to experience. So it all comes from a deep place of choice. Somewhere he defines heaven as the infinite power to choose.
Oh.
And as we become willing, we're literally communicating to the cosmos, to spirit, to God, that we are open to being changed. And
Mhm.
when we do that, the benevolence and the love of the cosmos immediately begins to hear that prayer and respond in a way that can begin to open us from that grip. As we learn to see what our fears and attachments have been, and we can begin to really let go of what he calls the only energy. How do you put this? The only energy you can be said to have created is fear.
Um,
God has love handled.
oh, yes, yes, yes.
And if you think of fear, it is that sense of a contraction and then an attempt to grasp and hold on to something. So it's like letting go. It's got the image of holding on to the edge of a swimming pool, and if you're going to swim, you're going to have to let go into the water. And willingness is our offering to the cosmos. We're willing to let go, and we're willing to be helped to let go. Because often we don't know how. We may not even know what we're grasping, and we may not be in touch with the underneath the fear that's actually running us. So fear is the only energy we can be said to have created, yet love dissolves fear. And it begins with the willingness and then to allow change to come, whether it be insight or the need to feel feelings or to forgive. And it activates this beautiful mystical alchemy in the really deep part of our heart and soul. It's almost like the universe is just waiting for us to be willing to be restored into that greater union. He said that God, what we call God, does not move to interfere with our choice. Until there's that willingness offered, the universe, it doesn't force itself upon us or try to make us change or let go.
I absolutely get that sense that every time we turn and we can use the word God, we can use the word spirit, the infinite field of intelligence or creativity, whatever that is, as we allow ourselves to sit in the closet, so to speak, turn off the sensory perceptions of the world, we give ourselves a chance to see another world and sense and know. And that is the heart, or that expansive, the universe of infinite possibilities. I feel like it just opens up and expands within us, though. And as we turn toward it, God, spirit, love, that Christ consciousness, it can't help but expand itself within us. We've given it permission
Yeah.
with our willingness.
That's how powerful that he often calls it, just a little willingness. And yet that little bit is so powerful, because it's us giving permission for a change to occur in ways that we may not know, we cannot control. Yet, I like the way I like to put it is, only God or only love is in the unknown. And if we open to it through our willingness, that light will meet us where we are and begin to open the closed places and restore us to that greater union. And yet, yeah, there's a journey. Can I really trust letting go of the edge of the pool? It's very normal for that to happen. Of course it happens. And if we can just recognize, yeah, I'm a little fearful here, it's okay. We can still offer our willingness to be shown, to be guided, and it will be done by this greater intelligence that knows us better than we know ourselves anyway. And it's it seems to be a journey of the restoration of trust, trusting one can let go of whatever we're gripping, surrender it with willingness, and something will unfold. Miracles, insight, revelation, guidance, according to our willingness, what we're willing to receive. To me, it over the years of my own journey of gripping, letting go, surrendering, gripping, all of that with Joshua over the years, all the experiences that have happened, I've really come to feel that there's a benevolence and wisdom inherent in love, which is the field of energy, light, in which we dwell all the time,
Yes.
even when we're sure we don't.
Yes.
It's always there, just waiting.
It's almost as if the finite mind, the ego, which is for me, it's that set of beliefs that is attached to the body. It's there to help us not stick our hand in the fire, or on the stove or something. It's definitely put you to the protector of the body. But when we realize that we aren't the body, we have a body. We have the body as a tool to experience that greater love, let's say, the greater union, knowing that we are never separated, not even from each other, much less from source, from spirit, from God itself. My ego, anyway, wants to say, no, I have this image of holding onto the pool and going like this, like I'm swimming. I'm still swimming. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm swimming. No, you're not. Let go. It's like, you can't let go. But it is, for me, it has always been just this gradual, like, just now there's just like a finger holding, but just saying, okay, I'll let go. I can remember toddlers as they are learning to swim. It's that moment of, look, I can do it. And immediately I have the image of, was it Peter walking on the water and sinking? And it's just like, wait, no, I can't. Like,
No, I
what?
can't.
Grab the boat, grab the wall again. And it's like, no, you can, and you did. do
Yeah.
it again, surrender again, choose again.
Over and over and over. Just offering that little willingness, being willing to allow this greater light to unfold what needs to unfold as it, flowers us, and just keep surrendering and notice and appreciate the journey. A beautiful thing he said to me very early was, love your journey, love all of it, for there are no accidents or mistakes. And so again, we've wanted to experience separation.
Yeah.
And when you really let that drop in and get past the how could I be so stupid, all that nonsense. What have I experienced in separation? I've experienced fear, doubt, maybe the attempt to control. I've looked for love in all the wrong places, as the old song went. Yet all of this is a kind of a key question I use when I do sessions with people doing what we call radical inquiry. What's one thing you've discovered or learned in whatever experience it is that may have been difficult to have realized any other way? There's always a jewel. And once we discover the jewel, now we can be in gratitude for our journey. And that gratitude opens the heart to that beautiful place of faith and trust. So it's quite a beautiful, beautiful journey, and it all really does rest on what would I be willing to discover and experience? Would I be willing to see what it's like to take the last finger off the edge of the pool and give the water a chance to buoyantly hold me?
Hmm.
And that's, as you were saying, when we do that, something you said as you were sharing reminded me of something Jeshua had said in one of the early channelings. He said, if only you could see from where we are that each time you allow, each time you surrender, each time you forgive, whatever that grip may be, and let it go, the only result will be a growth of peace, wisdom, and joy. There is no other option. Once you, like the infant, as you were describing, whoa, I'm swimming, or Peter, I am walking on the water. I let go. Oh my goodness. And that's reality. It will always bring us into a greater state of wholeness.
Yeah.
That's wider, higher, a deeper embrace of reality, even as reality is embracing us more deeply.
Can you tell us a little bit more about radical inquiry? And is that part of the living practices?
It is a practice. It's one of the keys within the pathway. Radical means most fundamental, to get to the ground of something. Inquiry, of course, to look within, not out. What's actually going on when I'm upset or scared or feel jealousy or whatever it may be, because these things are actually effects of a deeper, as you know, perception, belief, prior experience that we've interpreted and feared. And I learned it from Jeshua slowly over the years. In fact, today I was reading the transcript of one of the early channelings, which we call the early years. And he always had a lot of interaction with the participants in the group, sometimes for hours. And as I was reading them, I went, oh my God, he's doing radical inquiry. It's a way of, he's just listening and then helping people become aware of the words they're using, and then asking, What's the belief inside those words? Where did you learn that? What if that's not actually true? That I've got to have the perfect lover, or whatever, the belief is that's running us. So it's a way of turning the mind back upon itself, but in a relaxed way, so that our own intelligence and mind begins to see what's been running on automatic pilot within it. And that always brings insights and ahas. And the other aspect that goes with it is what we call love's breath. The breath is such a powerful, powerful tool. He calls it the angel of air. And he said that it's the bridge to the Holy Spirit, that it carries frequency. So that, say, when we open to a revelation, if we just pause to breathe and let the cellular structure of the body really feel it, really be with it, something lands in ways that we may not rationally understand. Or even if we need to feel an anger or a sadness, the same thing. If we can give it breath, the image I like to use is like a loving mother who would pick up the child that's in fear or is having a bit of a tantrum, and the loving mother brings the child to her lap, doesn't judge the child, just holds it. And the child itself goes through its energy movements and begins to relax. And then the loving mother can say, maybe there's not a snake under the bed when the child relaxes. So in a way, in a nutshell, I could say radical inquiry and love's breath in combination bring that same quality of spacious safety that helps us relax from soul to cell, in which insights, healing, guidance, direction can begin to occur. And I really learned it over the years from him. And it's quite remarkable, quite powerful. But it's just being present as the field of love and trusting. What I found in doing sessions is, often what causes us to get stuck is that somewhere we formed a judgment and we lost trust in our own journey. And so we reject it a little bit. We push it down, repress it, call it wrong or whatever. How can I turn and become like the loving mother who welcomes my own direct experience just as it is? When we do that, we discover that it always has things to reveal, a wisdom and a truth that we're just missing because we're too busy fighting with it.
Pushing it away, yes.
Yeah, pushing it away. And this is why he often says, you can try to grow, you can try to change, but until you have loved what you have been, change can't truly occur because it comes from the depth within us. So he just puts it quite simply, only love heals. And love allows all things, trusts all things, enfolds all things. And then there's a transcendence, a growth, and now I see what I was doing. And then growth can take place.
And as you said that, I understood why we as humans in different traditions, whether it's Christian or Buddhist or Hindu, we take these practices, we give them names, forgiveness, self-forgiveness, gratitude, all of these things. Ultimately, it is that loving ourselves, however we call it, however we weave our way into it, it's ultimately allowing us to love ourselves exactly the way we were and are, because who we think we were, how we experienced ourselves and what we call our past is still that idea of who we think we are. And that love is heals every little bit of that, doesn't it? Into our
Yes.
wholeness. Now we know who we are as love.
Mhm.
That's what I got from what you just said.
That's a really good way to put it. One way I like to think of it is what seems to happen in our consciousness. I call it fusion, like two things that are really separate, not separated, but two distinctive things in our beingness and our mind. We think it's one. It's like the I and the it or the becomes me.
Mm,
And gradually in the field of love, as the mind relaxes and we become curious and wonder about, so I have been that way in the past. I wonder why. Well, there's a spaciousness that happens, and the I is becoming an it. It becomes something I can see. And if I can see that, oh yeah, I've been manipulative or afraid of not surviving or whatever it may be, if you can pause with somebody right there and go, do you recognize that there's a part of you that is now seeing this? And if it's seeing it, it cannot be it.
mm,
That's that's the true self. That's the light of the soul that can see with great equanimity and I call it wonder, innocence. It's like, I was afraid of not surviving. That's why I worked 60-hour work weeks or whatever it may be. But that's not really what my heart wants to do. What is it that's seeing that? It is the infinitude of the soul, the deeper self.
mm,
So if we can just get a little gap between the it and the I and just look at it. And to do that, we can't fear it, we can't judge it. Just become curious, as you're saying, love, just welcome myself just as I have been and as I am in the moment. Begins that process of diffusion.
mm.
Ah,
That reminds me that we have this sense that we have a body and we're not our body. Like we have a car and we have a hammer and we have all these tools that we use when we want to create, when we're in our creative mode. We wouldn't say that I am my house. I am it, and look to my house to solve my problems or tell me who I am. And yet, in a way, it's like looking at the body, the history, the memories, things like that, as
mhm.
who we are. We're just
Yeah,
missing the mark a little bit. We're just not quite seeing the picture and that space that you talked about. It's like, oh, this I'm more than being this, what I'm seeing. I'm the seer. I can see
yeah,
all that. How I can see the house and the hammer and the body and the memories and the people and the events. And the seer is just filled with love and can love everything just as it is without needing to change it. And that's us. That's who we
that's
are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The body, well, yeah, the poor body. Oh my goodness, the impulses we send to it. I am the body, you've got to keep me safe. We send it mixed messages constantly. And the way Joshua puts it is you'll come to see that you do not exist in the body. The body has arisen from within you as a vehicle that allows you the experience of the third dimension, physical plane. It will be, the body can be um, a separation device or it can be a communion device.
Mm.
Like when we hang out on the beach and relax the body and feel the warmth of the sun. It's like, communion or in gratitude. We have a judgment of somebody, we contract, we push away. Now it's being a separation device. He said you have to come to see that the body will always serve your deepest desire. Do you desire union, growth, peace, or do you need to be right, to judge, to fear? One is a contraction, one is an openness. So the body itself is as you said, it's like a hammer or a vehicle that the soul is elected, not been forced to have, but has elected what we might call incarnation to come into this dimension, to discover all there is to discover about it. And the greatest discovery is, how can I incarnate love in every moment here? That's the journey. For me, it's taken the work of seeing all the places that I was defended against love out of fear. Those places, he calls them the obstacles to the presence of love. And they only exist in the mind. They have no other existence.
Right.
Yeah.
You've come around perfectly to that idea of how I discovered you and the teachings. I would like to say the modern teachings of Jeshua. And I invite the listeners to really discover that pathway called the Way of Mastery. And how I discovered it was recommended by a friend who recommends to everyone he knows to read this book. And I think he said he's read it 20 times. And it's Steve Hardison. He'll listen to this. He's just an amazing person. And it is a pathway and a direction and with things to do. Because as we change what we do, we kind of ground into our bodies what we hear in our minds and what we know from our soul. So it's the knowing that sparks a remembrance when I read or listen to the Way of Mastery. And I know that is true. I feel this truth, but my mind might say, sure, that's true, but let's go do what we've always done anyway, because it's, I'm here to protect you. So we want to change the mind through some of these practices and then really ground it in our body with the breath. And so that's how I kind of see that pathway. And I just want to let everyone know I did buy the book, but I get up kind of early in the morning and I read a little bit and I kind of meditate on what I read and I take my time in the experience, not for the knowledge, let's say. I'm there for the experience. And my eyes don't work that great early in the morning. So I went on YouTube and I found the Way of Mastery, and I know it's on your wayofmastery.org website. And that is the original channeled recordings with your voice. That's where we started with speaking the words of Jeshua. And it was, I could just close my eyes and you're speaking to a group. So I felt the energy of that group and the energy of Jeshua and this peace and this calm. And I got to experience that every time I turned on. And it says on the ones I watched, the original channelings, it was transformational. It really was. And just beautifully brought into form through you.
Thank you. And again, as you share that, it hits that place in me I know that was my body and the voice with it, but that's not me doing the teaching. So I just try to remind people I'm a student of his. And yes, I surrendered to him. He had once very early said that he had come as my final teacher. And so that's how I consider him, my final teacher. And The teachings still to this day, whether it be the course you're talking about, we sometimes call it the Christ Mind Trilogy, Way of the Heart, Way of Transformation, Way of Knowing. Before that, there were about 4 years of live recordings, the early years. And before that, the Jeshua letters and the Way of the Servant, which he gave. Beautiful, beautiful mystical book. But even today, as I'm doing some filming, helping to unpack some of these lessons he gives, and turns, he'll say things within there, and he'll make suggestions. But most people kind of read right by it, or they listen because we're so used to, as you were pointing out, the mind wants to try to gain knowledge, but you're there for the experience. And that really struck me as that's the key. Don't kind of try to gather data through the intellect, but breathe, relax, be more like a sponge. And he transmits a frequency and a light with every word. He makes suggestions, and those you can turn into living practices. In other words, don't just think about it, but actually do it. If he says, pause and feel the angel of gratitude for all that comes. Well, how about doing that often during the day? And that's where the change really begins to occur at a depth that the intellect may not even realize. So I like how you said that it's to be here for the experience with what's being transmitted. It's not just the ideas, the concepts. There's a light that strikes us. Can we relax and open to that and just be willing and allow that light to bring about the changes in the depth of our being in places that we may not even know exist? And so that's the best way to be with the material, is kick back, relax, listen or read slowly. Don't be in a hurry, and just be like a sponge. Let it work on us rather than us trying to grasp it.
Mm, that's exactly how I felt about it. Well, I would love for you to share a little bit about the workshops that you have coming up. I'm always fascinated with the Aramaic teachings, the Aramaic Jeshua is, I think, how you're calling it. Is that a workshop?
It's a body of work, and
Um,
sometimes there are immersive retreats as we turn them into a living practice. The way it started was, while that 3-year series that you mentioned, what we call the Christ Mind Trilogy, while he was giving that, one morning out of the blue, I just thought to ask him, I said, I have a question about what Christianity calls your Lord's Prayer. And he said, very well. So I began to ask him the question, and then his reply was that he said it in Aramaic, and the energy, it just, it was just like an ocean wave passing through my whole being. Every chakra, every part of my being was just thrown open. And then I kind of came back to myself and I thought, whoa, what was that? And he said, my beloved brother, it would be highly suggested to you that you allow an ancient remembrance of these things to return. And my mind's like, that's not an answer. That's so so I asked him, like, how did you say the first word? He said, it's in you now. Rest in breath and simply be willing to have it restored. So I'd say, okay, fine. I'd sit down and I would meditate. Okay, I'm willing. What was it? What were those words he was saying? And I would hear and feel in my body like, Avun. The first word translated is our Father, but in Aramaic it's Avun. And I could feel its vibration. And I was like, yeah, but what does it mean? And he would say, just continue to feel. So it was frustrating my intellect. So very gradually over about 14 months, I could say the prayer as he had said it to me. And how to describe it? It was like as I rested in the vibration, I would have insights and revelation of its meaning. Like Abun, the infinite divine is ceaselessly pouring out its light and wants it to land in its creation. En nefesh in Aramaic, matter, body, form, life. Abun. It's like this ceaseless pouring of light. It's all around you. Devoah Shemaya. The second word of the Lord's Prayer. It isn't our Father who is in heaven, but the infinite light that we call God is all around, pouring its light out ceaselessly. You exist only within it. Open and receive it. That's the first line of the Lord's Prayer. So there's a living practice right there, just to open and feel that light. And it's above you, it's below you, it's all around you, it's pervading you now. Rest in it. Abun Washamaya. So in our retreats, and I've done a course on the Lord's Prayer after many years of working with him and coming into the depth of it as a living prayer. It's really more of an attunement and flow than it is a set of concepts or axioms. It's a living practice that transforms. So in our retreats and things, that's really the goal, to deepen the immersive experience with the vibration of Aramaic. And because most of us are English speaking or European speaking, yeah, we need to do a little translating from Aramaic to unlock and then feel the depth of what the prayer is really saying. There's three trinities to the Lord's Prayer. There are about 9 lines. And the first 3 are like a living practice. Avun Devashamaya, Nita Kadash Shema. Like from kosher, Jewish word kosher. We come into alignment with this light as we breathe your holy breath, as we open and breathe and feel and rest. And as we do that, we experience the third line, Te Malkuta. We become a fertile field, as like say soil that has been tilled and all the rocks and the twigs are taken out. It's soft soil. And now the farmer can drop the new seed into the softened soil. And that's what that first X or the first Trinity is all about. Realize you exist in that one. Let your breath soften and relax everything as you breathe that light through your being. You'll feel your body relax, the heart will open, the mind will slow down. You're becoming soft, into which light can drop revelation, guidance, new direction, healing. That's the first Trinity of the Lord's Prayer, and then it flows from there. So it's a living practice, and it's what he actually taught to his followers. So he calls them my original teachings.
Oh, yes, beautiful.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
many of us really connect to the idea that there is an expanded um, realization or truth behind the words that we would know as the Lord's Prayer. the words that we have now were translated most of us, the words that most of us have now were translated so hundreds of years ago by people who didn't understand the other translations of Greek or even the Aramaic. There's such a new understanding, not just intellectually, factually through history, but a new understanding through revelation and insight that makes sense as we look at some of the other ancient teachings of, you know, Buddhism and Hinduism and through Sanskrit and through the Aramaic languages through Judaism. And I love that because it resonates with me so much, these teachings, because they point back to oneness and wholeness, that we were never separated. We're in love now. We're in spirit now. What is appearing through our eyes and our senses doesn't appear that way. So stop looking there. Just turn this way, turn within. Oh, there it is. That is just so beautiful that you're doing these. I call it a new teaching, and yet it's one of the most ancient prayers that people would know, but it is a refreshed teaching.
Yeah, it is. And I've been blessed with experiencing so many beings who have been willing to experiment with it, and the changes that happen in their consciousness, their lives, and just that realization that to pray isn't to talk with ideas to a God who is somewhere else, but to relax and open, as you were saying, to this realm of spirit and light and love that is already here now. The separation never occurred. It's a delusion made by the ego. It doesn't actually exist. So Abun the Washamaya, the infinite divine, is all around you, above you, below you, pervading your being. You're at rest in it now. Open and breathe and welcome it. Rest in it. Let everything soften and melt. And that quality, he uses the Aramaic word shalu, to come into attunement with, to rest in. And shalu gets translated through Latin and into the Germanic languages, etc., as pray. So for him to pray isn't to think ideas, but to breathe, to feel, to receive, to remember where we are always as the beginning. It's not the end step, it's the first step.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. You have some retreats coming up. I think they're already sold out, but but we can let people know where they can find the new ones that are coming.
Yeah, I'll be in Brazil where there's, I don't know, a huge group of beings have been attracted to Way of Mastery down there. They're having a ball with it. And so
As
we're
they
doing,
should, as they
yes,
should.
exactly. Have fun. So I'll be there in September, early October, Ireland in November, and then Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona in the middle of December. And if somebody's interested in that, they can contact us at wayofmastery.com and ask about what's going on, and we'll let them know. But yeah, I look forward to it. Over the years, I've probably done, I don't know, 1,000 retreats and things. There's no greater precious place to be than where a group of beings come together in one shared purpose, bring that willingness, and then miracles happen. Growth, insight, love, healing. It's, well, years ago when all this started, my fear was up quite deeply. I didn't want anybody to know that Jeshua had appeared in my living room. They would lock me away. This can't possibly be true. All of those things. And at one point he said, "My beloved brother, as you come to trust me, your trust will carry you into the experience of joining with countless beings that you don't even know exist, and you will experience the miracle of what love brings when any two beings or more are willing to join in that one purpose." And at the time, I could feel myself soften for a moment, and then that 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 thing wants to hold on to the edge of the pool. But gradually, it reached a point where the attempt to resist surrendering to him was exhausting me. I finally had to just, I realized that I'll never know what any of this is if I don't surrender to it.
Yeah.
And I could say after all these years later, he's always been right and I was always wrong.
That just, you gotta laugh at that. You gotta laugh at that. What I heard you say in the laughter is that love is always right and fear is always, and I won't say wrong, but it's guiding us in the wrong direction. It's closing us down instead of opening us up. But it was, that was how perfect that you remind us of our humanity in that, sometimes we choose the that fear, that closing off, and until we can let go of the side of the pool. Something else you said, reminded me of where two or more are gathered. When someone else says, yes, I get that. Yes, I see that with you. Yes, I know that with you. And we're giving ourselves not just permission, but now there's no going back because there's someone there. It's that, I hate to use a modern term, there's accountability. It's like I've said, well, I'm willing. Are you? Yeah, I'm willing. And then
Yeah.
you're looking at each other holding to the edge of the pool and you're like, 3, 2, 1, are we going to let go? Yeah, and you do. You
Yes.
have someone to
Yes.
who knows what you're feeling. They're feeling it too, and they're willing to jump with you. And that's powerful. And I know that you have that with these teachings. A lot of people, it has
Mhm.
transformed so many people's lives. It's such a beautiful, powerful path for transformation.
It really is. And what you were just sharing reminded me of something so beautiful that he has shared. He was talking at one, this was years ago, he was talking about how we use the word friend. And he said, in your world, this tends to be used a little unconsciously and loosely. But he said in his time, to say someone, I am your friend, meant I am fully devoted to seeing and holding you in the highest light possible and will do so until you can hold yourself. So to offer friendship was a deep spiritual choice and commitment and devotion of the heart. And when any two beings meet in what he calls true friendship, there's the field of possibilities is magnified tenfold. Wherever two or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. The light, the field is just so much stronger. And we really only need maybe a few true, really good, what he calls friends of the heart,
Mm.
those ceaselessly devoted who hold us, even if we stumble or reach back for the side of the pool, they're still holding us in the highest light, and they're there to share the journey with us, and we're there to help support each other. True friendship, where it occurs, is very holy, very fulfilling. It's hard to put into words, but it transcends fear, it transcends time. And hopefully we all beings come to have a few really good, true friends that are not just what we call our friends, but they're holding us in that highest light, holding us in their prayer, and us them. And when we come together to join in that field, that's where insight, miracles, understanding, the faith to let go of the edge of the pool and know that we're supported. Friendship is probably one of the most precious of gifts we can experience, in that sense that he uses it.
I love that. And
Mm.
I do truly believe that that is a beautiful definition of true friendship. It's who we choose as our family. And I have that image of the mother, holding her child. It's our friends can hold us even when we're wrong, even when
Yeah.
we've made the mistake, even when
Mhm.
we're flying away, the butterfly released, they're holding us no matter what. And that is a beautiful gift. I love that
Mhm.
definition of friendship, or that recognition, I should say, of friendship.
He calls them friends of the heart.
Hmm.
Mm.
Of course he does.
Of course.
Well, I have so much enjoyed this time together. This has been really wonderful. I am just so blessed by the work you've done, the willingness that you have been to continually bring these beautiful teachings to the world through you, through
Mm.
who you are, through your life, your energy, your love. It's a beautiful blessing.
Thank you. I like to say he's probably had to work overtime to get me to where I'm at. You know, break down those concrete rough spots. It's been worth it. It's my soul's fulfillment, is to share these teachings in a way that truly convey their depth and can help others bring about those beautiful moments of grace in which healing, change, letting go of the edge of the pool can truly occur. There's no more beautiful experience in this dimension for me than the moment of seeing the light return, or
Mm,
somebody heal, or somebody let go of an obstacle, or whatever it may be, to begin to live from that deeper trust that, as in his words, that I and my Father are one. The separation is always been unreal. It's a great joy to witness that occur.
but in the timeless sense, to be able to know how many people this has affected, I think is pretty amazing. And just being here with me today, I know that so many people will register this wonderful truth that is there in all of your books and those recordings and all of the material that you share so willingly. Your experiences of fear and being unwilling is almost as important as the experience of being willing, because we all struggle with that daily. And to be reminded that every moment of fear is just a moment to remind us to choose once again.
Yes, I've argued with him a lot. I've tried to convince him he doesn't see things clearly, and all of the rest. I remember once I finally got exhausted from my attempt to argue with him in the hope that he would go away. And he said, "My beloved brother, because you have time and I have none, I will outlast you."
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
what, can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't think of a comeback for that one. It was in fact, something struck me as like, I think that's true. It's like he's going to win this war.
And now we get to imagine that that's what he's saying to all of us.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, he that is what he's saying. He is there. He has one purpose and goal. He said, I come to anyone who but prepares a place for me, and I will be with them until their awareness is the same as mine, that they too know the truth of their being. That's his only goal.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm just so
Thank you.
grateful.
I've enjoyed being with you too. Blessings.
And I'll just remind everyone that I will put the notes for your website.
Mastery.com is our official home, I guess.
Okay, so yes, they can find you on wayofmastery.com. And I just so enjoyed the YouTube channel with recordings. It has so many recordings of you, some shorts, you're reading the Jeshua letters, you're doing other things. It's a beautiful way for people to take a break with whatever they're doing and just really be with you and these teachings on just such a profound level. So I'm grateful for all of that. And I invite our listeners to, as always, love, laugh, and live enlightened every single day, and enjoy your week.
Yes. Thank you so much. Take good care.